We're starting today with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Now, they have once again come under criticism this week after a lot of people have labelled them hypocrites because they've taken 4 private jet flights in just 11 days, despite, this is, repeatedly airing their views about the environment and kind of issuing the rest of us with ways they think that we should be behaving.
Right, so Harry and Meghan's most recent trip was a short stay at the home of Sir Elton John in the south of France. Sir Elton has defended the couple, claiming he paid for the private flight and that he also made a carbon-neutral donation on their behalf.
Yeah, well, it seems Harry and Meghan aren't alone. Many high-profile climate change campaigners who haven't changed their flying habits either. 2 people with very different views on this. Green Party member Zoe Hatch and our travel expert Simon Calder. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
So many people talking about this morning, Zoe. Most of the front pages.
Yeah.
And a lot of the criticism is aimed at Harry and Meghan, saying, you're preaching to the rest of us about our carbon footprint, and yet you've taken 4... not just any old flight, but private jet flights. Yes. What do you make of all this?
Well, I'm not here to preach to anybody, actually. All I can tell you is my own personal experience. I'm a mum with 2 children and I've chosen not to fly. And the reason I choose not to fly is because I'm aware that we're in a situation of climate emergency.
I mean, you're a member of the Green Party.
Yeah.
When did you make the decision? Obviously something that's very close to your heart, but is this a recent...
Well, I joined the Green Party in about 2015 because I realised that nobody else was doing anything about it. And I'm thinking about my children's future. We're looking at a future where potentially 6 billion people on the planet are going to die. This is serious and shocking.
But it is serious and shocking, Zoe, and I think a lot
fly?
of people will be nodding their head and saying that is serious and shocking.
Absolutely.
And then when you ask them, but would you give up your summer holiday or would you give up flying to see a football match or whatever?
It's really hard, isn't it? Especially when people in high-profile positions are making these, sort of statements and then they're doing the absolute opposite. But what we need, perhaps, is not just to focus on individuals and individual choices and putting pressure on normal working people to make different choices is really hard when you haven't got a systemic change. And by that I mean a culture where the government are coming in and making sure that we're not giving tax cuts to aviation industry, but actually we're pulling those in line with everybody else and making sure that they pay a fair price and that we actually look at making different choices. But then that price always
gets transferred ultimately to the customer. So you're saying
I'm
eventually
not actually advocating
it will be very costly to fly, but then you're going back to the days where only the very wealthy could afford to go anywhere.
I'm not advocating for that at all. I'm just saying, as a bare minimum, people should pay their fair way. And on top of that, we should maybe look at a system of rationing and looking at a culture change so that we're not validating ourselves by going to the Maldives, but we go local and we shop local.
I get that, but could I just say, is what you're saying, Zoe, however unpalatable, are you saying basically travel then becomes the preserve of those who can afford it?
No, I'm absolutely not. I'm saying that everybody should be allowed to travel. It's how often we travel.
What would you ration it to?
What I would advocate for is something that Extinction Rebellion are sort of campaigning for, which is a citizens' assembly. So it's not the politicians that are making the decision. It's not the aviation industry. They've obviously got vested interests. What we're going to do instead is get the people to look at the facts, look at the science. The scientists know what the evidence is that's before us. We're in a very serious situation.
Listen,
and then what we need is get
is a man who we're lucky to have on this couch because he's normally on a plane. So he is.
I'll be on a plane tonight. I'm going to wonderful...
Sorry, can I just finish? All I wanted to say was that I just want people to decide. So people shouldn't be lectured at. People should have the opportunity.
You are unconscious.
Yeah.
Should say, I'll only fly once a year.
But we should do that collectively, not as individuals.
It's how you do it, if you don't mind me saying, Zoe. I'm flying to beautiful Belfast in Northern Ireland, carrying on to Ballycastle for a trip there. I'm so thrilled. Every day I wake up delighted that we have so many opportunities to travel. Eamon will know, go back 25 years, travelling between Belfast and London was fantastically expensive. You'd end up on an overnight bus or whatever.
Empty planes?
And empty planes. Now, all the planes are 95% full, and people are able to have a much higher quality of life, seeing family and friends, boosting tourism to Northern Ireland, and crucially, transferring wealth to poorer parts of the world, which is something that tourism does. It's just how you do it. And you don't need citizens deciding this collectively. Everybody can take responsibility. So don't go on a private jet, thank you. Fly on a budget airline to the south of France.
But even a budget airline is giving you a carbon footprint, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And therefore you need to look at everything. How do you get to the airport? Public transport. I mean, forgive me asking, I don't know if you have a car. I certainly don't. I'll be cycling to the airport. So everything makes a difference. And you have to look at the aircraft that people are using as well. British Airways, for instance, made an announcement today. We are making fuel from waste, which is great, commendable. However, they forgot to say we have the biggest fleet of gas-guzzling Boeing 747 jumbo jets, 25 years old, and we're going to keep them until at least 2022. There's modern planes out there.
Shouldn't the Green Party be turning their attention to the big corporations, the big airlines, instead of asking people that go on holiday maybe twice a year?
Science
they work
can
very
change
hard.
Well, I think that's a misrepresentation of the Green Party policy, actually, because we are absolutely targeting the aviation industry. And it's interesting you said we disagree, because a lot of what Simon said I do agree with, that we need to look at all of those different points, but it's the scale of the problem. We've got 10,000 aeroplanes in the air at any one moment. That's 1.5 million passengers. It's absolutely shocking, isn't it? We have to scale down, and we have to see that, as you said, as part of a wider picture of, I'm stopping eating meat. We have one car in the family that we use as rarely as possible. We travel by train, public transport as much as possible. And I've actually been to Nice, where Harry and Meghan have just, travelled to. But I did that by train, and it was a beautiful journey. And we did it with the kids.
Days to get there.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It took us 10 hours. And occasionally we've done it by Eurostar.
What about people for business, though? We're talking about, the individuals and saying maybe we should cut down on holidays. What about people for business? Business is worldwide now. People are flying every single day, doing business, bringing jobs, trade.
Yeah,
do you ever see a world where we don't fly at all?
Well, Mark Carney, the Governor of England, of the Bank of England, so the head honcho of the Bank of England has said we need to change the way that we're doing things. Otherwise, we're going to have system collapse. We've had David Attenborough talking about the fact that we're going to have societal collapse if we don't change our ways. These are really serious and massive messages that I'm not kind of wanting to sit here and tell people individually what to do, but it needs a collective consensus that changes the way that we holiday, on the way that we live our lives.
You listen to Elton John, and he comes out with this statement, and he said, it's not Meghan and Harry, because I've offloaded their carbon footprint. I've paid for the extra emissions, and I've paid for 2 trees to be planted and whatever. I just think that's a very naive rich person's solution to what's going on. Where do you stand on that offloading, that whole business?
Maybe carbon offsetting was something that was relevant 30 years ago, and I don't know, do you carbon offset? Maybe you do some, but it's only part of the picture, because the flying, the reason that I stopped flying, and that was the first measure I took, is because it's not only about the CO2, it's also about the contrails, and they also contribute to global heating, because they create a cloud in the atmosphere, and that also contributes as well. So offsetting in and of itself doesn't really help that much.
However noble Zoe's ambitions are, and she's practising what she's preaching...
It's not just about nobility, it's about being a grown-up and about taking
I understand, but I'm trying to get a response here from a man who earns his living as a travel journalist, and the idea that people see travel as a reward for their hard work.
Yes.
Is it going to go away? How palatable would Zoe's message be?
Well, it all depends how you do it. I would just tell a very different message, which is let's celebrate the opportunities we have to travel. It is a wonderful time. We have broader horizons than any previous generation, but just be gentle as you do it. So don't ever fly in anything other than basic economy. When you're packing, just take hand luggage. That's all you need. All of these things make a difference.
But why explain to me why being on the same plane and being in economy is more green than being in business class?
If we all... Because the impact per passenger is much lower.
You're talking about space, because you take up more space in business class.
Exactly. So therefore, if you do what the budget airlines do, you pack a plane absolutely full,
well, that'd be enough
sell all those
to stop
that would be enough to stop
travel around the world. The very thought of that, Simon. You and I are polar apart when it comes to travelling. Travelling, Zoe, is one of the most hateful, awful things through airports. It is a ghastly thing. And anybody who has had the addiction of a private plane, I can see why they do it. It is addictive. It is addictive. Okay. We have been able to do it through work reasons, things that we've done.
It's not something I've ever had to worry about giving up.
Do you worry, that we're all sticking our fingers in our ears a little bit, going, I know about climate change, but I really want to go on my holiday and fly in a nice plane.
I love what Simon said about celebrating. I love international communities. I think that building connections across countries is really, really important. But, look my children in the eye and say that travel is more important than their future. Because what we're looking at is a situation where they are worried about not having clean drinking water,
worse things
and
than
they don't
But is there not worse things affecting that than airplanes in the sky?
Airplanes is one of many contributing factors. Eating meat is another one.
Cruise ships.
Yeah.
There we are.
Yeah, cruise ships, yeah.
There's so many different things that we've got to look at as a society. We need to get more sustainable, we need to get more local, and we need to downscale.
But then Zoe says, unless every single one of us goes back to living in caves, we're all contributing to climate change, whatever we do.
Absolutely not what I've said.
No, she's not saying, but we're just saying, Simon's just saying, don't forget cruise ships.
Yeah.
So eventually it boils down to, well, you don't go anywhere or do anything.
We've got one of the, in this country, we've got fantastic engineers that could potentially, we could put more money into finding solutions to some of these problems, but we have to recognise that it cannot be business as usual. That's the basic message.
Can it be? The genie's out of the bottle. Can it be business as usual?
Look, just remember, the cheaper the ticket, the lower the carbon impact, probably. So stick to no-frills flying. And in 10, maybe 20 years, we will start having the first reliable electric aircraft, and that's going to transform things. So at the moment, just think about everything you do and do what you can to diminish the impact, but do go off and celebrate the wonderful opportunities.
Zoe, Simon, thank you very much. Thank you for all your comments.
Just one final point. A PR own goal from Meghan and Harry on this private plane?
Well, it won't be if they join Extinction Rebellion on the 7th of October and take to the streets like I'll be doing.
They won't be doing that, I don't think. PR own goal?
Oh, look, I'm sure they will be taking their next opportunity to fly on a scheduled plane with the rest of us. I hope I will see them at the airport this afternoon.
OK, enjoy Ballycastle.
I will.
Do you have a long wait, Simon?
We had a caravan in Ballycastle for years.
Really?
Beautiful.
After the break.
Absolutely. I know Ruth's not interested, but it is a beautiful part of the world which I'd recommend anybody to go and visit.